Welcome to the Chronological Bible Journey, where we discover God's whole story one day at a time. I'm Tanya. I'm here with Michael. We'll be discussing John 11 and Luke 18. It's day 293. Let's begin.
All right, Tanya, I got a question for you. Do you like cliffhangers when you're watching TV?
You know, I really prefer Netflix, so I can just skip on to the next season, so I don't have to sit in that cliffhanger too long.
Yes, so the answer is no.
That's correct.
Yes, I'm right there with you, right? When a cliffhanger happens, you're like, no! But in our modern world, we get to just go to the next episode. But that used to not be the case. So there used to be a show back in the 2000s called 24. And the premise is that one season would be one day, and every episode was 1 hour, but it would also just cover 1 hour in that day. Mm-hmm. So 24 episodes was just 24 hours. And so at the end of every episode, do you know what it was? A cliffhanger. Every time it was a cliffhanger. And so you're like, oh, I got to watch the next episode, right? But back then it was on DVDs. Mm-hmm. But it was a fascinating premise and very ingenious. But here's the thing. Our reading yesterday ended on a cliffhanger. It did. We were in the middle of something pretty dramatic going on.
That's right.
One of Jesus's friends had died, and we ended our reading with Jesus weeping.
Which is not often what we see.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then we were done. And we were just left until today to find out what exactly was going to happen, right? So I often, whenever I read scripture like this, I often picture scripture as a TV show or a movie. Like I envision things inside of my head. And I kind of envisioned as I was reading today, just today's episode opening up in pretty dramatic fashion. Jesus is standing in front of this tomb and he boldly is like, hey, roll back that stone. And then the camera cuts to everyone there, and some people are confused, some people are shocked, some people are like, what? And then it finally lands on lands on Martha, and her face just crinkles up and just goes, Jesus, that's gonna stink. Yeah, so this is just a picture into my head.
We're going to send you to Hollywood, Michael.
Yes. When I read scripture, I picture it all in there. Because for me, it's situations like this that we see that God's power becomes most evident. And it is sometimes in these dramatic fashions because he's going to give instructions that seemingly make no sense, but it is only through obedience that we see the power of God become evident. Mm-hmm. And what happens is finally he's like, okay, we're going to do this. And so they roll back the stone, just like he said. Mm-hmm. So they had to show faith, and obey his instruction. And then he says, Lazarus, come forth. Now in that moment, Tanya, how long do you think it took for between him saying, Lazarus, come forth, and Lazarus appearing? How long do you think that was?
Well, I'd like to think it was pretty instantaneous, but I don't think so. I think it might have taken a little bit because, for one, it was to show the power of God. And so if it was instant, the people could have missed it really easily. So I think for just a few minutes, there was enough pause to be like, what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, Lazarus was all bound up and all of that. Maybe he had to loosen himself up. Who knows how long it took, but I like to think there was a dramatic pause. And in that moment, people, their hearts were revealed. Do I believe that this is going to happen or not, or all of that? Who was watching Jesus? Who was watching the tomb? How was it going? But he then appears. However long it took, I don't know. But he then appears. But we see that there are two reactions in the crowd. There are two reactions. I want you to read for us, please, John 11, 45 through 47, and then jump to 53.
Many of the people who were with Mary believed in Jesus when they saw this happen, but some went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. Then the leading priest and the Pharisees called the high council together. What are we going to do? They ask each other. This man certainly performs many miraculous signs. So from that time on, the Jewish leaders began to plot Jesus' death.
Okay, so there were two reactions. People either believed in Jesus, hey, this is pretty amazing. Okay, you are who you say you are, or complete unbelief. There was no middle ground in that. And this was as clear of a miracle as it could be. There was no conspiracy. He was dead. Everybody knew it. He had been in the tomb for multiple days. There was no way around it. And so, but there were still others that were like, we know what he's done. But instead of believing, they're like, we've got to kill this guy because he threatens us. Their hearts were hardened.
Right. They were afraid of their future.
Yes.
What was going to happen.
And as a result, their hearts were hardened against God and his evident work. You know, and sometimes when we're praying for people to accept Christ, sometimes we're like, God, just do something amazing in their life so that they can tell that you are real, right? I know I've done that before. But here's the thing. People watched Jesus do miracles, and what did they still do? They still hardened their heart.
That's right.
So instead of asking God to do something crazy and amazing that they have no choice, right? Because people always have a choice. I love this verse in Ezekiel 36:26. And I will give you a new heart, and I will put a new spirit in you. I will take out your stony, stubborn heart and give you a tender, responsive heart. Pray for people's hearts to be softened.
Yeah, that's a good word for us too, because there are so many times that we want to look at the fear that's happening around us, but we need to have that responsive heart to what is God doing in this situation.
Yeah, where our own hearts sometimes a little stony, right? But asking God to soften their hearts, turn them from a heart of stone to a heart of flesh. Now, later on in our reading, we came to the story of the persistent widow, right? And I kind of enjoyed, again, I kind of pictured some stuff in my mind on this one. I won't give you all of those pictures, but the context of this story starts at the very beginning when it says in Luke 18:1, one day Jesus told his disciples a story to show them that they should always pray and never give up. So what do you think this story is going to be about?
We need to always pray and never give up.
There you go. I love it when the Bible's super clear.
Yeah.
And we see that this widow needs justice, but the judge in her town, not a just man. He doesn't fear God. He doesn't care about people. And so he keeps just putting her off. He doesn't care. But finally, she keeps coming back to him over and over and over again. He's like, enough. I'm through with you. I'm going to give you what you need so you will just leave me alone. And Jesus is like, how much more loving is God than this judge? So let me read for us Luke 18:6-8. Then the Lord said, learn a lesson from this unjust judge. Even he rendered a just decision in the end. So don't you think God will surely give justice to his chosen people who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will grant justice to them quickly. But when the Son of Man returns, how many will he find on earth who have faith? God is so much more trustworthy than a human judge who has personal biases, who has bad days, who doesn't want to deal with people, all of that. God is so much more loving and trustworthy than someone like that. And God may not move as quickly as we want, but he cares for us and he loves us and he wants to give us things that are for our good. Now, I will tell you, when I was preparing this episode, I was reminded that Christy and I, we are praying for something right now that has been years in the making. Years. And you know what it feels like? That the Lord is not going to answer those prayers.
Yeah.
And I came into preparing for this and I was like, the story of the persistent widow and looking through there, because I have been tempted to go, what is the point anymore? What is the point to keep praying? Well, at the very end, what does this say? At the very end. But when the Son of Man returns, how many will he find on the earth who have faith? Well, we keep praying. Because when we stop praying, you know what that reveals in our heart? That we believe he is incapable or unloving to move in a way in our lives that we've been crying out to him.
Yeah.
So may I, right now I'm speaking to me, may I keep praying and never give up.
Yeah, that is such a good word. You know, it reminds me later on in scripture, it says, Jesus says, keep on seeking, keep on praying, keep on knocking, because the door will be opened. Now, it doesn't always happen like we want it, but he is a faithful God. He is a promise keeper.
Mhm.
Thank you, Michael, for today. Thank you all for joining us. I hope you've been encouraged. If you have, would you leave us some comments in the show notes? That helps us, and we would love to help other people get more engaged. We hope to see you again tomorrow.